Hey everyone, we are closing in on the end of the year. This is video lesson number 3 on 5 habits that kill team unity. I apologize I didn't get it out last week. We had a lot going on. I had a couple meetings in Orlando, and then we had Taylor Road's BSV. That's done and over with. We killed it. I did an outstanding job over there. KT, Nick, the entire team. Wayne came over and helped out. Josh was there. Thank you for that. That was a great sign of teamwork. And what was so cool about that was, kind of use a business buzzword, it was kind of organic. We knew we had the BSV approaching, and everybody just started pitching in and doing what they knew needed to be done. And really proud of that, and just thank you for that. And that's what these lessons are about. These ideas and these topics, is we can discuss what it is that destroys teamwork. We can be on guard against that and do the things that build teamwork. If you've ever been part of a really great team, you know that that's a cool feeling, and well, it's just better than being on a crappy team. And we don't want a crappy team at Fair Havens Foods. So if you've been following along, thank you. If you haven't, it's okay, because the other 2 videos are still on the site, and I would really encourage you, please go back and watch those. But just to recap, the first habit that kills team unity is poor communication. And in that video, we talk about the different avenues that we have to communicate in. We also talk about why communication is so important. But here's the bottom line. If you don't have communication, you have no unity. And if you have no unity, you can't work together as a team. So poor communication is the first habit that kills team unity, and we want the opposite of that. We want people who value communication, who communicate professionally, effectively, honestly, and in some cases candidly when needed. But we're getting the information communicated that's going to help us make our customers' lives better and make our lives better and our team's lives better, because we all work at Fair Havens Foods. All right, second habit that kills team unity, and this was the last video, was gossip. Now, gossip is one of the characteristics of human nature, but it's not a good one. And unfortunately, it's very socially acceptable. However, it's incredibly destructive. And we don't want to do things that are destroying what so many of us are working so hard to build and maintain and be successful at. And gossip is the kind of thing that just kind of sneaks in there, and it just starts eroding everything. So it doesn't matter how hard we may be working in a different area of our restaurants, or a problem we may be tackling, or just the hours and the days and the time that we put in. We might be doing all those things really well and working on the right things, but gossip can seep in and just destroy all that. So that's the second habit. The third habit really kind of comes out of gossip, and actually gossip makes this a whole lot worse. But the third habit that kills team unity is unresolved conflict. So, how many of you have no conflict in your life? If you raised your hand, or you thought, hey, that's me, you're lying. You just haven't dealt with it yet. So you have unresolved conflict. And here's what happens with unresolved conflict. It comes about just by nature of working with so many people. It may be conflict with a customer. There may be some disagreements or misunderstanding, and we need to handle those professionally with a desire to serve our guests. But it also comes about when we have restaurant teams of 60 plus people, and you have manager teams of 10 plus people, and there's different ideas, there's different thoughts. Sometimes our schedules don't always overlap, and we don't understand what's going on, and all of a sudden conflict kind of starts. And so it comes about, one, just by nature of working with so many people, but it's made worse when the conflict goes unaddressed. Because what happens is people start gossiping about it. And if this person has a problem with this person, and they don't go talk to each other about it, but they go talk to everybody else about it, what happens is we create these teams within our Fair Havens Foods family, and all of a sudden these teams start fighting against each other. We don't need to be fighting against each other. We need to be fighting our competition. We need to be fighting against all the things that make it hard for us to serve our guests and serve each other well. There's plenty of stuff for us to fight. It's not each other. You may have heard the saying on something that the enemy is not in this room. Well, the enemy is not within our company, unless we have people intentionally gossiping and intentionally leaving conflict unresolved. Then we have people who are actually working against what we're trying to accomplish. And that is not a good thing. So, unresolved conflict. If you have been with us for a long enough time, you have seen or witnessed our approach to solving conflict. And my philosophy or my approach is to always address it quickly, as quickly as possible. That's why communication is so important. Because if we know about something early, we can address it when it's small. But we want to address conflict quickly, but we also want to address it professionally and resolve it. And ideally, the resolution would be the two conflicting or sometimes three conflicting parties, hopefully it's not more than that, get together, and rather than talking about each other, they talk to each other. They address their concerns. There's candid conversation. There's listening. There's some thinking. Maybe there's some self-evaluation. And ultimately, it should lead to an understanding, an apology, and a determination to work together at a higher level. And I will tell you, as somebody who has had to work through conflict myself with other people, and also as somebody who has helped people work through conflict, when there is a genuine desire to resolve the conflict from both parties, those parties end up being stronger and more unified than they were before they even had the initial conflict. So as we talk about unresolved conflict, it's totally unrealistic to think that there's going to be no conflict. And in some cases, conflict is necessary because it challenges us to maybe consider another point of view or another perspective. But the bad thing about conflict is when it goes unresolved. So I'm going to get a little personal, but if you're sitting here, you're listening to this, there's a good chance you have some form of unresolved conflict with someone. If you have talked to other people about a problem you have with someone without talking to that person, not only is that gossip, but that is a sure sign that you have unresolved conflict. And I will tell you that the longer that unresolved conflict goes, the harder everyone around you and me and everybody, all of us, are going to have to work to make up for that dissension within our company. So let's go after unresolved conflict and let's fix it professionally. I know that whether I've intended to or not, there have been times that I've rubbed somebody the wrong way or I offended someone, and it's easy when that information is brought to you to get very defensive. But if we are going to be conscious of fixing unresolved conflict, of not allowing it to go on, I'm asking that if you are approached by someone, they say, hey, can we talk? Don't let the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and get all defensive and bow up and all that kind of stuff. Just say, yeah, and listen. Just listen. The feedback they may give you may be valid. It may not be at all. But you have an opportunity in that moment to be professional and to work through that conflict. You may be in a position where you need to help somebody else or encourage somebody else to work through conflict. Somebody comes up to you and says, hey, did you hear about so-and-so? Or you wouldn't believe what so-and-so did. Just politely say, I'm sorry, time out. Before you tell me about any of that, have you talked to that person yet? Have they heard from you what the issue is? Because the thing about these 5 habits that kill team unity, if we're going to be on guard against these, we've gone over 3. We're all put in 2 awkward positions. The first awkward position is we have to all look internally and ask ourselves, what part am I playing in destroying the unity of the team at Fairhaven's Foods. Because no matter how good we think we are, and I think the world of many of you, but all of us play some part in that, and we can all do better at that. But the second awkward position is, as leaders, and if you're watching this video, you're a leader within our company, leaders can't just stand idly by while witnessing something that they know is undoing what our company is trying to accomplish. And so what that means is, if you are seeing poor communication, or you're receiving poor communication, or you're hearing or overseeing somebody gossip, or somebody's coming to you and gossiping, or you know that there's unresolved conflict, you play a part in encouraging those behaviors to stop. Or not just stopping those behaviors, but turning those behaviors into the productive behaviors of communicating properly, of not gossiping, but communicating with the people who need to know the information, and addressing the conflict professionally. All of us, there's no single person who's a manager at Fairhaven's Foods who is exempt from any of this. There's no leader in our company who is exempt. All of us need to first look inwardly. What part do I play? What do I need to change? And then two, we need to look outwardly and say, okay, where can I help prevent these three behaviors that we've just gone through? Okay, as we go into 2019, there's going to be things that we have to do that some of us are going to disagree with, some of us don't like. I sat through meetings last week listening to people at McDonald's say we're going to do things that I don't like. I just disagree with completely, but I have to play by their rules. I don't like it when the government takes taxes out, but I have to play by their rules. So there's going to be things that come up in 2019 that some of us just don't like. And in that moment, we have a choice. We can let the destructive behaviors that kill team unity start to well up and come forth. Or we can say, hey, you know what? We're kind of out ahead of this game. We know the things we don't like are coming. But yet in those situations and when they come, we're going to value great communication. We're not going to gossip. We are going to resolve conflict. And next week, we're going to talk about the fourth habit that kills team unity. And then the week of Christmas, we'll drop the fifth video and the fifth habit that kills team unity. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. Thank you so much for watching this video. And please be prepared in your meetings this week to talk about this topic. And let's stay after it. Thanks, everyone.